Look, the knives are out for HHS Secretary RFK Jr. He's facing calls to resign from many current and former HHS employees, and it comes after he fired CDC Director Susan Monarez and is, of course, shaking up the CDC. Here he is talking about it.
We literally did worse than any country in the world. And the people at CDC who oversaw that process, who put masks on our children, who closed our schools, are the people who will be leaving. And that's why we need bold, competent, and creative new leadership at CDC. People able and willing to chart a new course.
Look, he vowed to make changes. That's exactly what he's doing. And we're seeing people on both sides of politics going crazy over RFK Jr. Here is Republican Chris Christie lashing out.
So I want to know, you think Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is the best man to be leading public health? No. Answer the question.
It's not my decision.
No. You're supporting his decision. You're supporting his decision.
I support his decision.
You just called him a humble, qualified man. So you think he's the best person to lead public health in this country?
I think he's the best person.
He's a joke.
Look, I'm not sure if Chris Christie is the picture of health himself and is really qualified to be lashing out the way he did. Of course, RFK Jr. needs to be held to account with every change that he makes. However, just looking at this huge reaction that we're seeing, I mean, if only people had questioned Fauci during COVID as much as they're questioning RFK Jr. right now.
Absolutely. I mean, I think Chris Christie's credibility on health policy is about as solid as his presidential polling numbers. So we'll start with that. But what we witnessed last week, I actually think that Senate hearing with RFK Jr. was one of the most explosive moments and weeks yet for this entire movement. He spent 3 hours exposing the truth. And you and I, Gab, have talked previously about the disruptors this administration holds. Someone like a Secretary Kennedy, who really is a true disruptor. He was not afraid of the truth. He actually named names in that hearing. He called out corrupt senators to their faces for taking money from Big Pharma. And to me, the biggest takeaway was talking about these institutions that have really lost their mission. The same people who ordered children to be masked, who ordered schools to be shut down, who shuttered our businesses, who take money from Big Pharma are the ones telling us now that Secretary Kennedy is the one to be feared. These agents like the CDC, they were once meant to protect and educate the American people, to actually inform the public, and something has gone so wrong. They have now become political tools, mouthpieces for Big Pharma, Gab, and these bureaucratic forces that actually punish and censor the American people and censor science. So reform is absolutely needed. The old institutions, they were about control. And if this secretary gets his way, the new institutions will be about truth, transparency, and trust for the American people.
Well, as you say, there were plenty of explosive, fiery moments in that hearing. Here is RFK Jr. being questioned over the COVID death data.
I don't know how many died.
You're the Secretary of Health and Human Services. You don't have any idea how many Americans died from COVID?
I don't think anybody knows that because there was so much data chaos coming out of the CDC, and there were so many perverse incentives. And these are model
You don't know the answer of how many Americans died from COVID. This is the Secretary of Health and Human Services. Do you think the vaccine did anything to prevent additional deaths?
Again, I would like to see the data and talk about the data.
You have had this job for 8 months, and you don't know the data about whether the vaccine saved
and
lives?
That's the problem, is that they didn't have the data. The data by the Biden administration absolutely dismal.
So who is politicizing? You're saying the Biden administration politicized all the data?
Caitlin, in many ways, RFK Jr. is right. We know that thousands of Americans died with COVID, not necessarily from COVID. And during the height of the pandemic, there were cases of motorcycle accidents being listed as COVID deaths if that victim tested positive for it. Now, Donald Trump was asked about RFK Jr. and he's not backing down in his support for him.
All the establishment attacks on RFK Jr.?
Well, he's a different kind of a guy. He's got a lot of good ideas, but he's got a lot of ideas. You know, normally they don't have any ideas, and that's why we have problems with autism and so many other things, because we're coming up with the answers for autism. You watch. We're coming up with the answers for other things that normal people, regular people, easy to get along with people wouldn't be able to do. He's got a lot of ideas, and so do I, and we're going to clean it up.
And I think what Trump's saying there really goes to your point, Caitlin, that RFK Jr. is a disruptor.
Absolutely. And if you look at the polling numbers, this is what the American people voted for on November 5th of last year. They voted for reform, they voted for transparency, and they voted to restore the health of the American people. I want to go back, Gab, to Senator Mark Warner there, accusing the secretary of politicizing the CDC, because these details are really important. The secretary actually brought receipts. He talked about, in that clip there, it was the Biden administration who actually fired anyone who refused to bow to Big Pharma's lies and propaganda about COVID. The numbers were fudged all over the place. That is the truth. Your viewers know it. The truth is, nobody knows the exact death toll of COVID. It doesn't matter if he's the secretary, nobody knows. You mentioned if you died in a motorcycle crash, if you died from any sort of accident or any sort of trauma, the hospital listed you as a COVID death. We now know that. We have those statistics. We have that data. So the Democrat political theater that we just witnessed in that clip is absolutely disgusting, and I think the American people see through it.
Now, RFK Jr. recently challenged Pete Hegseth to a fitness test that included 100 push-ups and 50 pull-ups in under 10 minutes to promote fitness and health in the military. Look at this.
The challenge is to do 100 push-ups and 50 pull-ups in any order you want in under 10 minutes.
So 5 minutes is the top standard that we want to meet.
You're not going to be able to do.
Now, Caitlin, we don't hate the media enough. The New York Times has come out with an article saying the experts warn against this kind of fitness challenge. I mean, you cannot make this up. The experts, are you kidding me?
Oh, only in 2025 in America can two grown men challenging people to a fitness test to better their health be called dangerous somehow. And this is by people who probably pull a hamstring reaching for like their oat milk lattes or something. No way they can even do 5 push-ups. It's confusing because I think the Democrat messaging and the mainstream messaging at this point is to be sick, to be fat, to be trans, to accept endless migrants, to accept crime, to not believe your lying eyes. I mean, the messaging is so poor coming from the mainstream media. Meanwhile, here is the truth. Obesity, teen depression, anxiety, they're through the roof. It's only skyrocketing, mental health problems with the younger generation. And nobody can run a mile without taking a vape break. So this is actually more than just a fitness challenge. I think this is about raising an entire generation to embrace hard things again. Like you and I had to. I had to run way more than just a mile and do some push-ups back in the day. And we didn't cry foul every time life gets uncomfortable, right? We're raising an entire generation that has zero coping mechanisms. So we need to get back to the hard things.
No, excellent point. Absolutely. Look, Caitlin, there are reports that RFK Jr. plans to announce that pregnant women's use of over-the-counter pain medication Tylenol is potentially linked to autism. These reports are coming out of the Wall Street Journal. What more can you tell us about this?
I think every single parent of an autistic kid got that message and has been doing research on this themselves. We were way oversold by the so-called experts on how safe any of these drugs, like a Tylenol, like an Advil, hormonal birth control, all of these pill-popping normalcies. We need to do some more research on it. We need to have open conversations and open dialogue because something has gone very, very wrong in this country. I will tell you from the research that I've done myself, I know the bigger story is actually folic acid. And RFK Jr. goes into this. It is being forced into our food supply, along with, of course, a tremendous number of different chemicals. But not everyone takes Tylenol. Everyone is eating the food here in this country. Over 70% of Americans have something called the MTHFR genetic mutation, and that is also contributing to autism, to this metabolic dysfunction that we're seeing in our kids. There is so much research to be done, but the overall message, Gab, is of course we need to break down. When you go to the doctor and you can easily say you're having trouble focusing and get an Adderall prescription in less than 20 minutes, you know you have a problem. When we're taught to treat every single pain and ache in our body with Tylenol, we have a problem. So it's worth a conversation, it's worth a dialogue, and I'm happy that we're about to have one.
Absolutely. We need to be having this conversation. We should have been having it a long time ago. Now, I want to ask you about President Trump. There are, of course, insane rumours circulating that he was dead just a week ago, all being fed by these woke lefties on TikTok. Now, Donald Trump has delivered a message to the mainstream media that we're also jumping on this trend, kind of pushing this bizarre narrative, claiming that he was dead last weekend. Just listen to this.
The press has been very good lately, except for one rumor that they spread. I did about 8 press conferences in a row, day after day after day. Then I missed one because I was in the Oval Office. And I also went out to a club because I had meetings at a club. And they saw that I was there. And the rumor started spreading, this horrible rumor that Trump is no longer with us. They said, I'm not. And I said, I got to the club, sir, are you okay? Are you okay? The fake news was at it again. But because I missed one day of press conferences, so today I gave them about a 3-hour press conferences on changing the name of the Department of Defense to the Department of War.
Caitlin, I mean, we see Donald Trump in front of the cameras all the time. We barely saw Joe Biden. He was always hidden away. Trump goes missing for a day and the mainstream media go into meltdown.
That's exactly it, right, Gab? We had the media silent when our president, Joe Biden, held 0 press conferences, did no media hits, took no questions from the press, was falling up the stairs. We had crickets back then from the mainstream media. Again, this is Trump derangement syndrome. We've talked about this on the show before. These people need to get well soon. This is a president that every single staffer has come out in support of, saying this man has more energy levels than I've ever seen before. Most people in politics that know him would tell you that, would argue that. This man is unstoppable. He has amazing energy. He's quite frankly done more media events in this first few months than Joe Biden did in his entire 4 years. So I think his actions and levels of energy speak for themselves, and we can all see that.
They certainly do. Caitlin Sinclair, thank you so much for joining us. Brilliant to speak with you again.
Thanks for having me.